The storm didn't scare you. It called to you, beckoning with a promise only the brave could understand. They saw destruction. You saw opportunity. They ran for shelter. You stood still, letting the fury of the storm carve you into something new. And that difference is why you've risen, while they cower in the ruins of their fear. The storm isn't an enemy. It's a teacher. It strips away the superficial, the weak, the temporary, leaving only what can endure. You understood that while others clung to their fragile illusions, they thought the storm would break you. But storms don't break those who embrace them. They forge them. In the chaos, you found clarity. In the destruction, you found creation. While they shielded their eyes, you stared into the heart of the tempest and let it show you what lies beyond fear. Running from the storm doesn't save you. It follows, relentless, merciless, waiting for you to trip, to stumble, to fall. They never understood that. They thought distance would protect them, that avoidance was the same as survival. But storms have a way of catching up, of finding the cracks in the armor of those who refuse to face them. You didn't run. You stood your ground. And in doing so, you became untouchable. Fear fuels the storm. It feeds on hesitation, on doubt, on the desperate scramble for safety. But you drained it of its power by stepping into its path. You embraced the winds, the rain, the chaos, and in doing so, you robbed it of its ability to intimidate. The storm may have raged around you, but it couldn't touch you, because you didn't fear it. You danced with it. Let it swirl around you. Let it see that you weren't its victim, but its equal. They fled because the storm mirrored their own chaos. It showed them what they've spent their lives trying to avoid: themselves. The storm reveals, exposes, amplifies. To those who fear their own darkness, it's unbearable. But you welcomed it. You let it reflect your flaws, your fears, your failures, and you didn't flinch. The storm became your ally, your confidant, your crucible. It didn't destroy you. It refined you. The funny thing about storms is they don't last forever. They burn bright, rage hard, and then fade, leaving behind a world forever changed. When this storm passed, you were still standing. They weren't. They clung to their fragile shelters, hoping the walls would hold. But walls crumble, shelters fall, and those who run always end up lost. You didn't need a shelter. You became your own, unshakable, unyielding, unafraid. The storm wasn't just a test, it was a gift. It separated the strong from the weak, the brave from the cowardly, the survivors from the victims. It stripped away the masks they wore, revealing their true faces. They fled because they couldn't handle what the storm revealed. You stayed because you already knew who you were. The storm didn't scare you because you had nothing to hide. There's power in embracing what others fear. While they run from the storm, you harness it. You take its chaos and turn it into strength, its destruction and turn it into growth. The storm becomes a part of you, a force you carry with you long after the skies clear. They'll never understand that. They'll never see the beauty in what they fled from. But you wear it like armor, carry it like a sword. They'll tell stories about the storm, about how it tore through everything in its path, about how they're survived by running, by hiding, by clinging to anything that felt safe. But they'll leave out the part where you stood in its center, unyielding, unbroken, unafraid. They'll try to forget the way you walked out of the wreckage, stronger, sharper, more alive than ever. But you won't let them forget. Life is chaos. No rules, no manual, No guarantees. It's raw, unfiltered, unrelenting. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid it, weaving illusions of control to shield themselves from the reality they can't face. But there are those rare few who step into the chaos willingly, who embrace its wild, unpredictable nature. These people don't just survive, they rule. Chaos becomes their ally, their canvas, their kingdom. And this terrifies manipulators and narcissists because they thrive only when the game is rigged in their favor. Chaos levels the playing field, and they hate it. Manipulators and narcissists crave control, not chaos. They build their power by exploiting the predictable, twisting expectations, feeding on the fears of those desperate for stability. But when faced with someone who thrives in chaos, their strategies collapse. Manipulators can't twist what they don't understand, and narcissists can't feed on what doesn't need their validation. Chaos is the antidote to their schemes, the force that renders them powerless. And those who master it sting them like a blade they never saw coming. The chaotic person doesn't play their games. Games are predictable, orderly, designed with rules that manipulators use as traps. Chaos breaks those rules, flips the board, burns the pieces. A narcissist relies on your need for approval, on your fear of judgment. Chaos strips that away. When you thrive in chaos, you don't need their games, their approval, their spotlight. And that makes you untouchable. Efforts to tackle chaos are not acts of control, but of surrender. It's not about taming the storm. It's about becoming one with it, learning to move with its rhythm, to let it shape you without breaking you. This is what separates those who rule their lives from those ruled by fear. Chaos forces you to face yourself, to confront the raw, unpolished edges of your being. It's a battle, and only the brave emerge victorious. Manipulators and narcissists, they aren't brave. They're cowards cloaked in confidence, and chaos reveals them for what they are. Chaos doesn't follow patterns, and that's what makes it so dangerous to the narcissist. They rely on predictability to manipulate, on cycles they can control. But chaos is wild, untamable, alive. Those who embrace it become unpredictable themselves, a force of nature that can't be boxed, labeled, or contained. The narcissist craves attention and adoration. Chaos denies them that satisfaction, shifts the focus to something larger, something they can't compete with. Manipulators despise those who tackle chaos, because chaos requires authenticity. Manipulation thrives in superficiality, in the cracks and crevices of insecurity and falsehood. Chaos demands you strip all of that away, forces you to confront who you really are. When you embrace chaos, you operate on a level manipulators can't reach. Their lies bounce off you. Their schemes unravel in your presence. Chaos isn't just survival, it's power. People who tackle chaos carry an aura of fearlessness that others can't ignore. They've faced the abyss, stared into its depths, and walked out unscathed. This shakes manipulators to their core because their power comes from exploiting fear. But how do you control someone who doesn't fear chaos, who doesn't flinch when the world falls apart? The answer is simple. You can't. And that is the greatest sting of all. Chaos brings freedom, a liberation from the constraints that manipulators and narcissists use to hold others captive. It frees you from the need to please, to conform, to belong. In chaos, you find yourself, raw and unfiltered. And that self doesn't need anyone's approval. Narcissists need you to need them. Chaos teaches you that you need no one. And that's a lesson they can't handle. The chaotic person disrupts the narcissist's carefully crafted narrative. Narcissists rely on control, on bending the world to their image, on being the center of attention. Chaos shifts the focus, tears the narrative apart, forces them to confront a reality where they are irrelevant. The manipulator's web of deceit unravels when chaos enters the picture, leaving them exposed and powerless. The next step is to set the standard you seek. If you wait for others to define the game, you've already lost. Most people drift through life accepting what's given, settling for the mediocre, clinging to scraps of respect and dignity as though they're lucky to have them. But the strong don't settle. The strong dictate. They draw the line, and anyone who crosses it pays the price. Setting the standard isn't about control. It's about declaring to the world what you will and will not tolerate. It's the sharp edge that separates you from the masses. Standards are not invitations for negotiation. They're declarations of war against mediocrity. When you set the standard, you don't ask for permission. You make it clear. This is the line, and those who wish to remain in your life must meet it or fall away. It's not about arrogance. It's about knowing your value, about refusing to dilute your strength to accommodate the weak. Standards weed out the parasites, the manipulators, the cowards. They leave behind only those who rise to meet you. People fear those with high standards because standards expose them. They reveal the effort people aren't willing to give, the integrity they lack, the lies they tell themselves about who they are. Standards are unforgiving mirrors, and most people hate what they see reflected back. But that's their burden to bear, not yours. You don't lower your standards to make others comfortable. You raise them until the world has no choice but to respect you or leave. To set the standard is to wield power, the kind that sends a ripple through every interaction. You become the one who decides, who dictates, who controls the tempo. Manipulators hate this because their power lies in ambiguity, in your doubt, in your willingness to compromise. But standards are immovable, and manipulators shatter against them like glass